Hi, Oluchi. Oh, Abha is there already. Rana is also there. Very nice. Okay. So we're just getting ready. So let me start the recording on Zoom as well. That's something we need to do. Record to cloud. So we are just on time, maybe another minute or so. Good to see somebody from Nigeria. I think Abha is from Singapore, that I know. Rana, where are you from? Not very sure. Okay, so I think, oh, Jordan, yeah, nice, very nice. Good to see people from some very different countries and different parts of the world. So let me welcome all of you to this 1 hour webinar on From a Struggling BA to a Proficient BA. My name is Ellen Mishra. I am assisted by my colleague Colin. So I'll be introducing both of us as we go forward. This is a webinar format, so obviously you can't speak. But what you can do is you can come to the Q&A tab and put your questions. So I'm very glad this is a joint webinar between IRM Training and Adaptive US. I am from Adaptive US, Colin is from IRM Training. So thank you for joining us today. It's always a privilege to meet business analysts around the globe. And I am quite sure this is going to help you to develop an amazing BA career, which is what we both organizations have been doing for quite a few years. IRM has been in business for close to 35 years now. We are a much younger company. We are in business for about 8 years. So here is a tiny poll that I would like to run for you. Let me see if I can invoke the poll for you, and let's launch the poll. It's a very simple poll, should not take much time for you to answer. So it's basically asking you questions: from which country are you joining from? And then would you like to become an awesome BA? So let's see. I see few people from Singapore, few people from India. Not so far, nobody from Australia, Philippines, or Thailand. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I see someone from Australia as well, Singapore as well. Oh, quite a few from other countries as well. Okay, good. Oh, there's someone who says he or she does not want to become an awesome BA. I would be very surprised. Usually, every one of us want to become a good BA. People should aspire for emulating us. We ourselves should feel good about being an amazing BA. So maybe I'll stop this poll here and let's see how it goes from here. Again, once more, a thank you. And please note that we are recording this webinar, so we will be sharing the recording very soon. And hence, please do not share any information that may be treated as confidential by your organization. So what is it that we are going to cover in this webinar? So this has two parts. One is skills that you will need to be a great business analyst, and also the strategies that you can adopt to fast track your BA career. So there are two parts: skills and strategies. And of course, what kind of support you can receive from IRM and Adaptive US. And we will be keeping about 20 minutes for Q&A. That's our target. I'm hoping we will be having that much time and we can answer your questions, anything related to the business analysis career. Also, please remember, we would have a coupon for available for you at the end of the webinar, and that will give you extra $50 worth of benefit if you happen to purchase a product within next 1 week. So before I hand it over to Colin, let me introduce Colin quickly. So Colin has been a business analyst and an IT consultant from 1988, which is 4 years prior to I started my business analysis career. So it's whopping 36 years of industry experience. He has played multiple roles in the world of business analysis, cybersecurity, data analysis, and he's also a regular speaker, author, trainer for IRM training. So over to you, Colin.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe
Thank you.
sharing and you can share from your side.
Okay, I'll just share from my side for our slides. There we are, and do major.
Yeah, I see the slides now.
Yes, that's fine. We're off. We're here. Well, welcome to our Essential Skills for Business Analysis presentation, which is all about skills needed to be a business analyst. Excuse me if I've got a cough. I'm trying to avoid this during the presentation. Okay, let's have a look at the skills required to be a business analyst. Well, bear in mind that business analysts were invented to provide a communications conduit between business users and technical developers because they do have two different mindsets. So we need to be aware that they think in different ways, and communication is the name of the game for business analysts. Communication skills in some form is absolutely essential. And you'll find that some of the skills we list here are all about different forms of communication as well. As well as communication raw skills, we also need information gathering or elicitation, investigation skills, rather like a detective. Being a business analyst is like being a detective at some times. And we do that to gather the requirements for any project or problem to be solved. We also need analytical skills and problem-solving skills to interpret the information we gather and formulate solutions to the problems that people have. The next skill would be modeling skills, and by that I mean visual or graphic modeling, something like a data model or a process model for communicating visually, which is far better for users to understand than the written word. We try to avoid the written word as much as possible and provide a picture where we can. So a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. That does apply to us. Also, an emerging skill required is workshop facilitation, which is becoming more popular. It's a new skill and it gets everyone in the same room, all the stakeholders together, so that we can analyze the requirements. If there are any disagreements, they're hammered out in the same room, and we don't have to play ping pong between different stakeholders in different positions, different times and meetings. And also we get consensus in the solution and extra commitment to that. Additional skills, which are to some extent optional, but I think some are becoming essential, is understanding the big picture, or systems thinking it's sometimes called. In this situation, I'm thinking of the business strategy, the goals and objectives of the business. The business analyst needs to understand this. And you will be analyzing the business processes which are designed to meet the objectives of the business, to make sure that they do actually deliver the outputs required to meet the objectives. Otherwise, we're doing the wrong processes to produce the wrong results. Also, when we do a technical deployment, we will be causing disruption to the organization. So we need to be aware there will be difficulties taking people on the journey, transitioning from the way we do things now to the way we will do things in the future. So we've invented a specialist form of business analyst called the organizational change manager to do that. Other ones which are becoming important are data analytics, important because we actually use data to make decisions. The business decision-making process is now heavily dependent upon data, not the senior manager's experience and gut feel. Others are cybersecurity, and also the old favorite of the process analyst are specializations which can introduce new skills which the business analyst needs to master. So often a business analyst is not skilled in all of these specialities, but the communication skills are a universal requirement. So given these are the range of skills required for a business analyst, let's consider an example, which is the interview. Now, the interview is the simplest of the scenarios for communication between a business analyst and either a single business user or technical developer. It's a one-on-one situation, the simplest form of communication. For that, the indispensable tool is the interview guide. The interview guide is quite simple. It's a list of questions which form the agenda for the interview. Say 12 questions for a 1-hour interview should be sufficient in most cases. It will vary depending on the complexity of the material, but generally that's a good metric to use. The questions must be arranged into a certain order within a topic, a logical order, possibly chronological, or going from start to finish in some way. And also the topics need to be addressed in some logical sequence. And that forms our agenda for the interview. Now, most questions, or a lot of them, will be simply, please, can you describe how this process is conducted? That would be a lot of questions. And the response from an interviewee will be the typical normal way of doing the process, which is 90% of the cases. What we're interested in as well are the exceptions. And we can detect exceptions when the interviewee uses words such as mostly, usually, normally, sometimes, if or if not. And you've heard people use these expressions when they're relating a story to us. When that happens, then we digress from our interview guide and we ask questions to follow the breadcrumbs to ascertain how the exception is handled. And that will follow the story to the conclusion of how the process is different in these circumstances. Then we need to get back to our mainstream interview guide, and it will provide to us the next question. Often at the end of one of these stories, we're so involved, we forget, oh, what was the next question? Well, the interview guide comes into its own at this point and provides you with the next question. Now, when we're talking to an interviewee, they have their own individuality, and we need to understand. And some of the tools we use to do that are psychological. One of them, for example, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's an old classic psychological model that we use to understand people's motivations. We start at the bottom of the hierarchy or the pyramid with the basic needs that people have, psychological needs for sustenance, a need to feed the family. The breadwinner, you bring back the bread for the family. So the example of meeting psychological needs is a base salary. Once we achieve this, we then wanted to continue into the future. We have stability, in which case that might be plans going forward, such as a superannuation plan. Once our physical needs are met, we then branch into our emotional needs, and we need to belong, in which case we need relationships, friendships, and usually working in a team, in a work group, or in a work situation is a good example of that. From there, we want to increase our self-esteem in our job, increase our status within the organization, and that's usually promotion with a job title or a job description. From there, we self-actualize and want to achieve the most in our careers, and that achievement would be a challenging job or a challenging career. And these are the order of importance of the needs for a person. And it's useful to think about this when you're interviewing people. So, okay, you've got to do an interview and you need to invite a person to the interview. The best way to have them attend is to advise them in advance what to expect. You don't have to send a list of questions. You just need to tell them roughly what the issues are that you want to discuss with a rough agenda. And this will give you two benefits. It will relax the interviewee who might have some anxieties about it. And also, it will produce better answers because they will look at the issues, think about them, and process the issues and think of how they view the issues and give you a better answer because they've thought it through in advance. Whereas if you ask on the spot, they'll give you the first thing that comes into their head. So it gives you a better quality answer. Now, when we introduce the interviewee to the interview, they will display themselves in various forms of communication. Not always verbally. We'll read their body language, their dress, their behavior, and last of all, their language. And that could be the style of language rather than the content. What we need to do is beware of stereotyping people based on these factors. We need to avoid that and see through the stereotyping, which is what people tend to do, and see the individual, their value behind that, and take a professional approach to build a relationship with them. Bear in mind, if they are a peer and not a senior manager especially, there will be some anxiety about the interview. I'm not talking about senior general managers, they know how to handle it, but if it's a call center operator or a clerk or some office worker, you'll probably find there's some anxiety about what's this interview all about, especially if they haven't done one before. This might manifest itself in different ways. For example, they might be impatient, and angry, in which case you need to respond by being tactful and brief. But you also need to be firm because regardless of the antagonism, you still have to walk out of the interview with the answers to your questions to get the requirements you require. They might be anxious or fearful, in which case we have to be friendly and reassuring. If they're being dishonest and misleading, and yes, people do this, they have their own agenda or they try to sabotage the interview, in which case you have to be more probing and aggressive in your questioning and question them more closely to get the answers you need. Now, don't forget that when you go in as interviewer as well, you will take your own baggage with you, just like the interviewee does. You will have your own biases. And this will be a result of your education, your upbringing, culture, your opinions, and this will color your perceptions of the interviewee and the issues under discussion. We need to discard these, see through them, and just as we did with the stereotypes, we need to relate to the individual and take a professional approach and remain open-minded about the issues when we talk to the people. Also, you need to decide what type of question you will use to address the interview. There are several types and they all produce different results. Typically in an interview, you will use some of them, more than one, possibly not all, but certainly a majority of these will form the content of your interview. The commonest will be the open question, and this will be fairly simple. It could be something like, can you explain how this process works, which we discussed before. This is absolutely an invitation to the interviewee to be relaxed and give their story. They will provide you with a richness of detail you didn't expect, and you will get to know far more than any other type of question. They will also reveal possibly some areas which need further discussion, issues that you weren't aware of when you went into the interview, because they're elaborating, they're giving you a full description of how they do their jobs, how they view the process, and how they conduct themselves every day. So matters will be raised which you didn't expect. It's also far more interesting than any other form of question. It's ideal for building a rapport with the interviewee. You build a relationship. It's easy to pick up on their vocabulary, their jargon, beliefs, values, etc. And it also puts the interview at ease. They feel valued. They feel listened to. You will use active listening to respond to them. And they do feel valued. Now, there are disadvantages to this. For example, you will get a lot of irrelevant detail that you don't need because the interviewee doesn't know what you require and what you don't require. You can discard these things. You do lose control of the interview as well because you have to allow the interviewee to finish their story without being interrupted. It's time-consuming and costly. However, in my experience, the richness of the detail you receive far exceeds the cost. There are some closed questions that you might use. These are ones which have a finite number of responses. All the responses are known and predictable. For example, it's multiple choice questions or yes/no questions, such as, do you undertake this daily or weekly? It's a yes or no answer, one or the other. The advantages of this is it saves time. You keep control of the interview. Everything is relevant because it's only a set number of answers and each one is predictable. And it's easy to compare one interview with a similar one you've done with someone else on the same topics. You can compare them very easily because the answers are finite. The disadvantages are you will miss out on the richness of detail you would have got from the open question. You will definitely miss out on the key issues you weren't aware of. They will not be raised because the person is not invited to elaborate in any way. And you will not build a rapport and relationship with the interviewee that you would have with an open question. And if your interview is entirely made of closed questions, it's very boring for both parties. There are also structured and unstructured questions. These are more the style you would be asking. For structured questions are planned in advance. The wording is set. The wording is published to the interviewee in advance, and the order of the questions is provided, so the person is responding rather like filling in a fixed questionnaire. So you will get some elaboration, but it will be very stilted and limited. Unstructured questions are more like open questions. They are just topics for discussion, and the wording is not fixed or pre-planned in any way, and it gives the interviewee openness to express their viewpoints. So very much aligned with open questions. Usually, an interview will consist of 3 types. The structured questions will only be used on very special occasions. Otherwise, the other 3 types of question will always be used. And finally, don't expect to take everything you hear about an interview in the interview as true. Don't take it as face value. You need to check it. You can corroborate the information against other sources after the interview, have more than one interview, or talk casually with others. During the interview, you can ask the same question in different ways, from different angles. See if there's consistency between the first answer and the second and third answer. That's one way of checking it's correct. Also, you can reflect back the answer if you need clarification. For example, you could say to the interviewee, let me make sure I've got this right. And then you repeat back to them what they said and see it, and they will tell you whether it's right or not. They'll corroborate it or correct it. And then when you get back to your desk, write the notes from your interview and send the main points back to the interviewee to see if they are correct. That way you will get an informal sign-off of your notes to say that, yes, I agree with what you've said and you have understood correctly. Now, one word about notes. Never write copious notes throughout the interview at the expense of relating to the interviewee. Don't lose eye contact with them. You will lose the rapport and you will not build the relationship you want. Consequently, you will alienate them and that will not form a good relationship. What you need to do is write what you can in the interview. above all, include the key words, which will give you the key to the answers you were given during the interview. And then, when you get back to your desk, then write copious notes immediately. Do it straight away. Short-term memory will probably tell you everything that went on in the interview, but it will not last very long. If you wait, you will lose it. And by tomorrow morning, you will have forgotten most of what was said at the interview. So do it straight away. Never organize 2 interviews back to back. Always provide some time for you to write your notes immediately after the interview. That is the best way to do notes and still keep a relationship with the interviewee. So that's the basics of doing an interview, which is the simplest of all of the interactions we have with users. It's also relevant to more complex interactions, such as meetings and facilitated workshops. So thank you for listening. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Colin. I
Okay.
think it was pretty enlightening to hear your vast experiences. And of course,
Mhm.
interviews are very important for
Yes.
every business analyst, and
Yes.
creating a rapport with the interviewee
Mm.
will always help,
Mm.
no doubt about it. Okay. So, folks, if you have
Mm.
questions, do put it in the Q&A chat window. So, meanwhile, someone from our team will take a look at the question and will answer them. So, I'm going to start with a couple of little different aspects that I would like you to take note of. So, one, Colin covered in some detail about a particular skill, but obviously, as business analysts, we need to develop many skills, and there should be a structured process to developing multiple skills. So, if some of you know Babok, we always start with something called as is, and we also have something called to be. So, the steps that I'm going to recommend is very simple, very aligned to the Babok process as well. So, we start with something called assess current skills. Like, how are you performing on various skills at current time? Then, obviously, based on the gaps that we see on the skills, we would plan certain development activities, which could be to go through a training program, read certain material, attempt a question bank, could be anything on that side. And the third point is, of course, to execute the plan that we have and come back to the assessment process, maybe once in 3 months or once in 6 months. If not 3 months, 6 months, at least once a year. That's definitely a must, because if you are not assessing your skills regularly, remember, you may become obsolete. Because the skills also keep changing. It's not that skills are static, although many skills remain quite important, like the stakeholder management, interviewing. These skills don't change that much, but the tools that you may use can change. So, how do we go about getting our skills assessed? So, there is a very simple tool that we have designed, and it's available for you for free. So, you go to this tool called competencypro.app. If you go to competencypro.app, so the link is there anyway. And what you can do is, I have logged in, but you can log out and log in again. And it'll allow you a few things, like it can allow you to add your CDUs, add your learning, training, achievement idea. But for the time being, I'm going to ask you questions on uh, your skills. So what we have done, we have created 3 frameworks, and you can choose all 3 of them as well. There is no restriction. And we might add a couple of other frameworks as well, like we are adding a framework on product ownership, product management. So those also you will see very soon. So for the time being, I have taken the Babok framework, and in Babok framework, you have few questions, like you can see here. There are about 40 questions, and it's asking you on each of these tasks and techniques, how good are you? Okay. And this data is stored and it is displayed to you on a graphical interface. So after 2 years, you can come and see, oh, this was the skill where I was at level 2 or maybe level 1, and now I am at level 4. So this is a very simple system which you can use for continuous assessment of your skills. And this you can give it to your friends as well and your company as well. Of course, for corporates, there is a little charge, but for individuals, it's completely free. So I hope you will use this, and please be uh, true to yourself. Don't give a higher number just to make it look good, because nobody is looking at this data. It's only for your personal assessment. Then you also need to develop a good skill base on BA processes. And one of the best books that you can get in the market would be the ABAC, which is coming from IIBA. So if you are a member of IIBA, you get it free. And along with this book being free, you also get many other books and a lot of other resources free if you become a member of IIBA. I would strongly recommend every business analyst to become a member of IIBA, because this is the world's largest association of business analysts. And there is a lot of value that you can get by becoming part of this large institution. Okay. Oh, there are a couple of people who have raised hands. Oh, okay. I'll try to answer this question, but give me a few minutes. Um, so just give us 10 minutes more, then we will go back to the questions. And then we also at Adaptive provide a lot of templates for business analysts, which is what is called inner circle. And I believe a lot of emphasis, like Colin said, is on behavioral skills. So please don't ignore behavioral skills just because they don't come in the exam or they're not much talked about. But behavioral skills matter quite a lot for a business analyst to be successful, especially if you have become a senior business analyst. Then there are plenty of tools that business analysts also should learn. Some of the common ones that we have mentioned here is Jira, Balsamiq, Vizazi BPM, MS Visio. There are plenty of tools that are becoming popular, as well as new Gen AI tools are also coming into place. So we should become good at writing prompts using generative AI applications to make our work more productive. So that is something all of us should keep in mind. As I have been telling, skills and tools continue to evolve. So do keep a tab on them as well. So at Adaptive also, we are tracking and we're trying to see how we can introduce newer courses in 2025, which will address the upcoming tools in the market. Then another thing I would always strongly recommend is to get yourselves recognized. There are two things that can happen when you are trying to get yourself recognized. One, you study a subject in depth. Like, say, for example, you have been doing requirement analysis for quite some time and you understand that process very well. So that will make it easy for you to get yourself certified as an ECBA or CCBA or CBAP. But you may not be so familiar with CBDA, which is on data analytics. And as Colin also said before, analytics is becoming quite important in business landscape. Organizations have better access to data now compared to what they had, say maybe 15, 20 years back. So organizations are looking at leveraging the data that they have created, accepted, collected over a period of time. Similarly, the world is moving more towards the agile approaches. So whereas Babok was probably written in a little time frame back, so it has a lot of focus on good practices, but some of these practices might have evolved as you are looking at agile way of working. Similarly, IIBA has been kind of prudent enough to introduce courses on product ownership, and many of you may like to become a product owner. I'm trusting someday IIBA will also introduce some courses on business architect and product management as well. Because being a senior business analyst, you could be looking at a business architect role, which is going higher than what you are doing right now. And some of you may also like to pursue the product management path, which is also a very, very lucrative profession to have. All said and done, probably IIB is the best place for you. This is the most recognizable certification scheme in the world for business analysts. Again, come back, and as I said, you can do one more round of assessment on, we call it a succeed, it's not succeed. It's there inside this app, Competency Flow. So succeed is another app that we have, which we were trying to integrate. Again, anytime you're doing assessment, please be honest. Don't over inflate your skills. because overinflating your skills will not let you improve those skills. That's all I would like to say. Then I will quickly take you through how IRM training and adaptive US can assist you in your BA career and skill development journey. What both these organizations focus is to provide you with very high quality content. You would have seen the kind of mentors that we have on board. All our trainers have more than 20 years of business analysis experience. So you are not talking to rookies who have been in the market for 3 years and claim that they are the experts in the place. We all have been performing. Most of us have been part of IIB standards writing team, questions writing team. So we make sure that you get to interact with the best in the industry and best in the world as well. Then we also try to get you an approach for success. So most of our students have got somewhere between 30 to 100% improvement in their salary within a year and a half of completing the training and certification. A lot of them have been promoted to new roles. So you can read about a lot of these stories on our website as well. And we also support you for up to a year if you take a training. That kind of a support is provided, and you can also continue to be mentored in the system if you wish to have the support of adaptive or IRM training. So this is the webinar coupon that I was talking to you. So please keep a note of this webinar coupon. So it's AI Web 2410. So that's the webinar coupon code. And this will give you 1 month of extra access to all our products and resources if you buy anything within next 1 week. So usually some of our products come with 6 months access period, especially the low value or low cost products are having some kind of a time limit. So you can extend that time limit by 1 month by just mentioning this coupon. So again, thank you for joining us today. We have assisted more than 1,950 professionals to be IIB certified. We're almost on the verge of reaching the 2,000 mark, and I'm quite confident maybe another month or so we should hit 2,000 mark, and that probably would be a world record by itself. So now it's questions time, and let me go to the questions time and pick it up. Okay. Walter, we are recording this session and we will send you the recording of the session. Presentation slides we also can share if you have provided your email address. We definitely can share the question, another presentation as well. Colin, this question is for you. Paul is asking, Colin has been talking about interviewing. He also mentioned process analysis. Does that mean a BA should also be able to determine requirements via the use of process modeling via BPMN or like BPMN?
Sorry, could you say that again?
So the question goes like this. Does that mean a BA should also be able to determine requirements via the use of process modeling like BPMN? So essentially requirements exploration using process modeling.
Well, as we say, the best way to do requirements is in the graphic method. We try to avoid written word as much as possible. So a guide for business analysts is always use a picture when a word will not do. People will not read a large book called a business requirement specification or a function spec anymore, but they will look at pictures. So picture your chief executive officer going through his second childhood. He will only read picture books. And graphic methods are always superior and far more accurate and cannot be disputed, whereas the written word can always be misunderstood to some extent. So always use a graphic method such as process modeling, and BPMN is always a good way of doing that. That seems to be the standard process modeling technique that's popular these days. Does that answer the question? I've just lost Ellen. I've just lost his sound. Yes, I've just lost all sound, Ellen. Yes, I'm afraid I've lost all sound as well from Adaptive US. Ellen, if you can hear me, I think quite a few people have lost sound.
Sorry. I think the
We've got
sound.
it. That's it. I can hear you again.
Okay.
That's it. We're
So
back.
the question
Yes.
is like this. I am a
Mm,
senior business analyst
mm,
leading a team of junior business analysts.
yes.
What's next on this career path? After senior business analyst, what's next? This is the scariest path of my career.
Well, that's a practice leader is where you go in the future. Um, Bear in mind that business analysis skills are becoming quite universal to many professions. In fact, IRM got lots of delegates attending our courses who don't have the title business analyst because communication skills are becoming very important to many professions. So we get accountants and economists and even lawyers sometimes coming through who want to learn graphic modeling and soft skills such as interviews and facilitated workshops because they are becoming ubiquitous and everyone is participating in a project environment now. It's becoming the normal business practice. And of course, data analytics is becoming important to everyone. So they want to know at least how to manage reports and wrangle data to some extent. So these skills are not just for business analysts, they are for several professions. Where do you go if you're the principal business analyst in an organization? I'd say you then ready for development management because a business analyst is also generally involved in the business strategy. And business analysts are more than qualified by the skills they get. If you look at the skill set in the Babok, it is extremely applicable to business strategy, strategic planning, business goals and objectives, and where the business is going. One of the few people can understand it and implement the changes and the practices, the business processes needed is the business analyst. So you will branch out into enterprise architecture, you'll branch out into strategic planning and be an essential senior person responsible for organizing the strategy of the organization. And that's where business analysts head when they get to the top of the tree, if you like, to the top
Yeah,
of
I
my.
think,
Yes.
yeah, Colin, that's true.
Yes.
I have
Mm,
been, in fact, requesting IIBA for a very long time if we could have an
mm,
extension on strategic analysis to
mm.
Babok.
Yes.
Hopefully, something will work out. That is a very good move.
Mhm,
And I think senior BAs also consider
mm,
roles in product management because companies are investing into product side of the story. You
mm,
could also handle analytics center of excellence. If your company is looking at analytics as a major foray, you could
mm,
also lead the AI center of excellence because organizations
mm,
are investing heavily into AI practices, tools, and we
mm,
being part of business, part of technology,
mm.
so we can play that role as well. So
Well,
as
The,
long as
bus-
you keep
the
upgrading
business
your
analyst is
skills,
ideal. The business analyst is ideally placed to be a good communicator with artificial intelligence to get the best out of it.
true,
So
true, true,
yes, so
true.
so we have a good
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
Yes.
Any other question from anybody else? I see some Q&A questions. but I think chats are not permitted for them. And I think we have answered most of the questions right now. Is there any open questions? Doesn't look like. Any final question to call in me before we wind up for today? All good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, folks. And I think maybe a couple of updates for all of you, those who are joining today. IIBA is running a special month for cybersecurity. So they are offering a 20% discount on cybersecurity certification courses. So in case some of you are interested in cybersecurity, this is a good month to consider getting yourself certified. So that's a good update. Then I think there's a festival of business analysis beginning in Australia in 2 weeks' time. So if you happen to be in and around the place, do join in and enjoy the conference. Then there's a conference happening June of next year, but that's still some time away, which if you are keen, maybe you can join the email addresses given to you in there. So if you want to reach out to IRM folks, please write to training@irm.com.au. If you want to reach out, thank you. Thank you so much, folks. And we stop here for today. And we hope you enjoyed the webinar and we have opportunity to interact with each other again sometime soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Excellent.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Ava.
Thank you, Elaine. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.